This is the February 1st, 2024.
Okay, now you can go. Sorry.
Okay, trial by fire. This is the February 1st, 2024 meeting of the Government Operations Committee, and our fearless leader is on Zoom. Amanda, I'm sorry you're not well. We hope you feel better. And so this is my first time chairing one of our committees, so I'm going to look to all of you to help me out. Stop me if I do something wrong. So I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask if there are any changes to the agenda. No? Okay. We have no comments from the public. So first on the agenda is the minutes approval. And these would be the minutes of January 4th, 2024. And we need a motion, Mike, and Greg seconds. And I think we need a roll call vote.
Amanda Champion?
Yes.
Susan Currie?
Yes.
Mike Lane?
Yes.
Greg Mezey?
Yes.
All right, minutes are approved. Second, we have advisory board appointments, and in your packet we have, I'll just read these out very quickly. To the Public Information Advisory Board, we have Linda Holtzbauer, member. Term expires December 2025. Ruth M. Groff, member of the Historical Commission. Term expires December 31st, 2025. And 4 new members of the Library Board of Trustees, Melissa Seidel, Mimi Campbell, Daryl Long, and Kathy Weinberg. We need a motion. Greg? Need a second?
Amanda seconded.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You seem far away on the screen there. All right, all in favor?
No.
Oh,
wait a
roll
minute.
call, sorry.
I got questions.
Oh, questions, okay.
I guess I would direct this to Amanda and Rich if he were here, and that is whether we should have an executive session on the appointments to the library board.
That is a good question, Mike. I guess I'm not sure how to answer that.
I know there's been a transition in the liaison position.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I just, we've had some discussion about this before, and I just wonder if we should do that in executive session before we vote.
I guess I'm just not sure how to answer. I'm not sure. Rich may have gone to the last meeting.
I believe he did.
I think, and that would have been like a week or so ago. Melissa, I know Melissa, she's been on the board for a couple of years, and she's actually been elected to be their president for this year, and she's already acting in that capacity. The other 3, I don't know. They're all new to the board. Several board members did leave this year as their terms were up. So the other 3 are, I don't know them, but I do know that maybe the executive committee or the nominating committee of the board did meet with these people and have interviews with them. But
I mean, I'm not asking for an executive session if the liaisons are happy to go ahead with this. But I just don't know. Can we postpone it in the meeting so Rich gets here? Because I think he was planning to come.
Maybe let's do that. Or
Okay.
Can we vote on the other 2 and then we'll hold the library board trustees until later?
Yeah, and I'm not saying I'm opposed to them. I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. And the one thing on, and you mentioned Melissa's application, it says the name of the seat president. I just want to make sure everyone knows we don't appoint the president of that board. And so she would be a trustee just like all the other ones.
So I did have a discussion with Rich. I know that he was able to meet with the incoming Board of Trustees leadership, and I believe the Board of Trustees did vote Melissa as the president for the year. Also, I know that they have an incoming vice president, Liz Chabot, so I believe he's had a chance to meet, but it would be good to hear from him.
Yeah, but and that's fine that they
Yeah.
voted for her to be president, but we don't appoint the
Right.
president. That's
Right.
what I want to point out.
There's been a loss
Yeah.
of some institutional history that we've talked about, that, sort of a loss of some processes and traditions, so.
Okay, well, thank you for accommodating that until at least Rich gets here.
Yeah, I guess I would be up for maybe saving that until the end, and then if we do want to go into executive session at the end when we've gone through everything else, that probably would be a good idea.
Okay,
Okay.
so
We can move all of the advisory boards to the end to allow for that, and then if we need to, we can separate the advisory boards, or the appointments for the library out and just vote on the other ones.
Okay, so we need a motion to move this to the end? No, we're just going to
do
move
it.
it to the end. Okay. All right, we'll go back to the agenda.
Yes, we did already have a motion, sorry, Greg and Amanda, so Greg needs to withdraw his motion.
I'll withdraw the motion and request that we could move it to the end of the meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, next is the administration report and discussion, the update on the strategic operations planning, and I know we have our strategic planning here, so thank you.
I'd like to welcome Karen Wichard from Barry Dunn, our consultant who is working with us for the strategic planning efforts. So Karen can provide us with an update.
Thank you, Karen.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to share my screen and pull up a PowerPoint. Hopefully we don't have the technical difficulties, so we will work through it. But really, as I begin, can everybody see that?
Yes.
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 Okay, perfect. We wanted to come today and give you an update on where we are in the plan development process, the project status. We want to walk you through draft plan components and talk about the community engagement we'd like to launch going into February, and then talk about next steps with the plan development. So just to orient everybody, where are we? We are in the third phase of the process. We've done phase 1, we've completed phase 2, and now we're really deep into the weeds on phase 3, which developing the draft plan components, the initial plan draft, the objectives, getting it ready to come back to you all as a full board for your review and input in early March. And then after we complete that, we'll go into implementation planning. So once again, just as a brief reminder, the plan development components include the mission, vision, core values, strategic priorities, and then the goal statements, objectives, performance measures, and implementation plan. Where we are right now is we have made good progress on getting the community forums done. We've completed the plan development sessions with you all and the department directors. Both of those were really excellent sessions. Good engagement, good feedback, good initial direction. In process, we're in the midst of, like I said, developing the initial draft components. And we have ready, that I'll share in a minute, draft mission, vision, core values, priorities, and goal statements that it's time to share with the community and get their input and engagement. Also in process happening along the way is working with subject matter experts within the organization on specific objectives. So we have draft objectives in the plan that align to the priority areas and goal statements, and we're in the phase of fine-tuning those. And so what that looks like is we're working directly with people like Roxanne at the airport. What makes sense for you operationally to include in the plan? How does that align to the priorities? What are the right performance measures to use to work through getting the work that you're doing operationally in alignment with the entire plan? And then, like I mentioned, on the horizon, hopefully starting next week, is the community feedback on the initial plan components. So going into those components, the draft mission and vision that we have come up with, remember, vision is where you're trying to go, the ideal state of the community, and mission is the purpose for the county to exist. So our draft vision is all Tompkins County residents thrive in a supportive, healthy, and inclusive environment. So where we want to be in 5 to 10 years. The mission, Tompkins County provides exceptional values-driven services, meeting diverse community needs, and contributing to a safe, thriving, and sustainable future. So the purpose for the county to exist. The core values and the diversity statement, as you'll remember, we spent some time with you all talking about the core values, working, are they right? Do they need updating? In the legislative session, we didn't spend much time updating the core values. When we got to the department director's session, they really wanted to rework, especially integrity, to make it more meaningful and easy to define so it could be operationalized more easily into the organization. Integrity is one of those words that means a lot of different things to a lot of people. So being very specific in how it was defined. So the updates to those core values right now are integrity. We commit to making conscious choices to act ethically in all endeavors, including following through on our commitments, admitting and learning from our mistakes, and being honest with the community and one another. Accountability. We embrace our vital role as public servants, holding the organization and each other up responsible for decisions that affect the public and our employees in pursuit of excellence. Equity. An important tweak that was made to equity I just want to talk about for a second is really adding the learning and best practices to note that equity is an ongoing process that takes continual work and continual learning. So the equity core value now reads, we sustain a workplace community that ensures fairness through diversity and inclusion by embracing learning and best practices, eliminating structurally oppressive systems, and building trust, appreciation, a sense of belonging, and opportunities for all. Sense of belonging is also new language for this core value. Respect stays the same from what it's been. We embrace a safe and inclusive culture and treat others with dignity, understanding, and compassion. And then finally, stewardship we added at the recommendation of the legislature plan development session. So the current draft of this core value is we value our resources and ensure that the provision of our services is done in a manner that enhances fiscal and environmental sustainability for the future. So that's a new add. And of course, undergirding all of this is your diversity statement, which reads, Tompkins County Government centers diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are committed to the empowerment of employees and residents to dismantle systematic barriers that inhibit inclusive governance and the provision of government services to all. So that's the work on the core values to date. And then the last slide I'm about to show you is where we are with the priority areas and the goal statements for those priority areas. So our current draft, you'll see the priority areas are organizational excellence, equitable service delivery, economic opportunity and quality of life, climate change mitigation and resiliency, and then health and safety. So those are the priority areas. Remember, those are the 4 to 6 areas where you organize your work, and there'll be objectives as the plan continues its development that aligns to those priority areas, and then performance measures that measure success towards achieving those objectives and these goal statements. So the draft goal statements are under organizational excellence to create a collaborative, organized, and effective government operations. Tompkins County will invest in its employees, promote a culture of belonging, and ensure a highly skilled and accountable workforce. Really, this is about the care and feeding of the organization. Are the systems right? Are the processes right? Is the staffing right? Are the tools there? Is there the cross collaboration among the departments to provide the services the community needs? Equitable service delivery to ensure that all residents have full and convenient access to person-centered county services. Tompkins County will develop and implement strategies to provide effective services in the most equitable and accessible manner for community members. So as you all well know, in Tompkins County, there's the rural versus urban divide around accessing services. There's transportation challenges. There's desire for some people to have virtual services versus in-person services. And then making sure that fundamentally everyone who needs or wants to access what you all provide as an organization are able to in a way that works for them. That's the spirit of this priority area, and objectives are in draft form to align to that. Economic opportunity and quality of life is really about full participation economically in the community through housing, jobs, and transportation as well. So you'll see that goal statement reads to increase residents' quality of life and support a thriving and inclusive local economy. Tompkins County will use its resources and partnerships to advance access to livable wages, appealing and affordable housing, and safe and affordable transportation options for people accessing jobs and services. The fourth priority area, climate change mitigation and resiliency. To mitigate the negative impacts of climate change and enhance community resiliency, Tompkins County will reduce greenhouse gas emissions from its operations and develop and implement programs to help the community transition from fossil fuels, sustainably manage materials and waste, reduce severity of climate impacts such as flooding, and prepare for disasters of all kinds. This priority area will really capture so much of the good work that's already been occurring around your fleet, your facilities, some of the water quality work, and organize those objectives and new objectives, solid waste, in a way that's easy for people to see, track, and make sure that you're moving towards your goals and outcomes. And finally, health and safety. So much of the work that you all do as a county is around health and human services and public safety. So this one is to promote the health and safety of all community members. Tompkins County will provide person-centered services informed by best practices to address existing and emerging concerns. What I want to do is stop sharing and pause there so I can see everybody a little bit and see if there's any initial ideas at a high level. What our goal is to put the core values, priorities, statements, mission, vision into a couple different survey instruments to take out to the community and also conduct some focus groups for feedback at this draft stage, really so people are engaged in the process before it's the final plan. And the steering team feels good about where these sit as far as doing that, but I would love to get any initial feedback from you all.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion?
Rich is on.
Oh,
the hand.
hi, Rich, welcome.
Hi, and apologies. I was on, and for some reason, you guys couldn't see me or hear me, but I could hear you for a while. And I know you had some questions about the library. And I don't have questions about the presentation, but I just want to let you know I'm here. And, oh, somebody fixed my name. My daughter used my computer, and I've been Julia John ever since. It's embarrassing. But whoever did that, I assume it's our good clerks, but thank you.
Okay. Any questions or discussion for Karen?
I guess I'll ask a quick question.
Okay.
It may be directed at Lisa. Have your team and other leadership positions had a chance to see this, or is this also the first time you've seen this?
The steering committee has been working with Karen and on the various iterations. So yes, this is, we drafted this. This is hot off the presses as of this week.
Great.
But the department heads have been engaged with it, and the subject matter experts throughout the organization as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Amanda has a question.
Yeah, I just thank you to Karen for this. I wasn't able to go to the steering committee meetings this week because I have been sick, but based on the conversations that we had a couple weeks ago and some of the questions that came up, I mean, this sounds like there's more clarity and answered some of those questions to give more specific and direct thoughts to the different priorities. So it works for me.
Any other discussion?
Will we get a copy of that presentation just so we can digest some of the language or spend a little bit more time with it?
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen.
All right, great. So quickly, I have a few more slides, but I want to
Okay.
thank y'all for, Amanda, thank you. And I want to congratulate the steering team and staff. Y'all haven't had a strategic operations plan before. It is really hard to draft those priorities the first time. It's hard to articulate exactly what you're trying to accomplish, and they have done excellent work working through that process, and I'm very excited about where we are as far as being able to take it to the community. So next steps, just so you all are in the loop on where we're going, is we'll do the social pinpoint community survey, similar to what we did at the beginning of the process. We'll launch that online. We'll use your social media channels and other ways to point people to that. We'll also do an employee survey, which we did at the beginning. And finally, focus groups. The first two groups you see here are clients and employees. We had terrific engagement from clients of your services in some components, especially whole health, and employees when we were in town for community forum. So we're going to close the loop back with those employees and those clients to show them where we are in the process, get their feedback. And then we're also going to work with Charlene and Dr. Moses to hold some in-person focus groups the week of February 19th, 20th with historically marginalized populations to get their feedback and input as we continue through the draft plan process. Once we get all of that together, I have no doubt there'll be updates and new iterations of what some of these words are and what it looks like. So we will pull all that into an initial draft plan to bring back to you all. And that's where we'll really spend some time walking through not only the mission, vision, values, priorities, and goal statements, but in parallel during the month of February, we'll be working with the subject matter experts to get the objectives in really good shape and fully refined for you all to take a look at too. So we'll work through that, bring that to you, get your feedback in that initial draft, and then hopefully be ready for a final plan adoption in late March or early April. Once that is done, we'll work with your staff to really lay out when things happen and how, because I will tell you there is a lot of really good thinking in our initial output documents and a lot to organize related to what's actually achievable and what that will look like going forward. So I'm going to stop sharing again so I can see y'all, but happy to answer any additional questions.
Oh, Amanda, thank you.
Thanks. Karen, my question is, when it's time to come back to the legislature with what you said, a little bit more solid stuff, will you just be coming back to this committee or I feel like the whole legislature will need to see it.
I agree. I think it would make sense to do a session with the full legislature, similar to what we did, maybe more of in a public setting when we did the retreat, but go into some details, get good quality feedback, and we can work through what that looks like and the when this month to get that on calendars appropriately.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be great. And I would leave it to Dan and the clerks and Lisa to figure out how best to do that or when, but yeah, thank you.
Okay, perfect.
Any other questions, discussion? Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. I'm looking forward to the community sessions. I attended one, and that was really interesting. It was great to hear from people in the community.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the feedback. As you know, you have a very engaged community, and I think we'll get some really good perspectives as we go through the month of February.
Well, thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye. Okay. We have a resolution next, authorizing county administration to negotiate leases and extend offers of tenancy at the Tompkins Center for History and Culture. This is on page 11. Mike moves, Greg seconds. Okay. Any discussion? Mike?
I would just point out that at the January F&I meeting, Ben Sanders, director at the History Center, came in and talked to us about the operations of the History Center, which was very interesting, and things seem to be going pretty well. And mentioned that they needed 10-year leases sometimes for his organization in order to be able to get certain grants.
Okay, okay, ready, Lisa?
Thank you, Mike. To clarify, this we're looking for this authorization because the current tenants have 5-year lease agreements that are needing to be renewed. So this would authorize us to go ahead and renew those. We did, and the legislature passed a resolution changing the History Center's lease to a 10-year lease to enable those grant opportunities.
Is this authorization good for a period of time, or is it a blanket authorization to move forward in the future?
Well, its intent is for the renewal of the current leases.
Okay.
It does not state that. But that is the intent, and it follows the policy that was just passed in terms of the renewal of leases. But according to that policy, there are terms and criteria for selecting new tenants, any change in tenancy, which would come before the legislature prior to acting.
Rich?
I was just going to add that it's unlikely any of the tenants there will want to leave. The Tompkins Center's been very successful in terms of housing these arts and cultural organizations, and they're all probably going to renew. But I guess it could apply to anybody new that came in if there was a vacancy. And given what's going on there, I wouldn't be opposed to leaving this in place unless the legislature decided to change it in the future for future leases.
All right, are we ready to vote? Okay.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Susan Currie,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Greg Mezey.
Yes.
Okay, next is a resolution of budget transfer across budgeting units, information technology services and county administration, payroll, HR operations administrator, ID number 12157, and that's on page 12. Someone like to move that? Greg moves.
Amanda seconds.
Amanda seconds. Any discussion, questions? Okay, we're ready to vote.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Susan Currie,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Greg Mezey.
Yes.
Okay. Next is a resolution for the voting machine technician. This is an increase in hours, ID 12193, and that is on page 13. And we have Steve here. Okay, sir, any questions? We need someone to move. Greg? Amanda seconds. No questions? Okay, I guess we're ready to vote.
No
Oh,
question.
there's Rich.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rich.
It's okay.
I'm trying to get used to which screen to look at.
Yeah, and I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
In the thick of COVID here at home.
I'm sorry you're sick.
Well, that's all right. Just a basic question. Why the change? Why go from 35 to 40?
Well, I mean, the positions are budgeted for 40, and right now we have, I think, one position that's at 40 and the others are at 35 or less. And when you have a holiday, one of the employees gets, even though they're all working the same amount of hours, one employee will get 2.8 hours for the day, another will get 3.5, and another will get 4. And this resolution just makes it so, everybody's on an equal scale.
Okay, why was it different before then, I guess is my question.
Oh, boy.
Or is that something that is too difficult to even explain? It's just history?
Well, it's difficult for me to explain. It's HR, something from HR.
Doing
is
this
probably
would
better.
rationalize the department, is that correct?
Come again? What?
Doing this would rationalize treatment of the employees in the department?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, I think we're ready to vote.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Susan Currie,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Greg Mezey.
Yes.
And I think Steve has a report, brief report and update for us, right? So I'll turn it
Yes,
over
I
to
do.
you.
Well, it's exciting time here at the Board of Elections. We recently took possession of new voting machines and got rid of all the old voting machines. The machines that we purchased are manufactured by a company called Clear Ballot out of Boston. At each polling place, there will be 2 units. There will be what they call a clear cast unit, which is used to accept the voter's ballot, scan it, and tabulate it. And then there will be a clear mark unit, which is an ADA compliant machine, which can be used by anyone who chooses to. The voter would interact with the clear mark using either a touch screen, an assistive device like an ATI, or using the sip and puff mechanism. If you want to get an idea what the machines look like, we are phasing them into our website, but we do have some videos there that show them. If you go to votetompkins.com, and on the main menu, select the blue tab that says for election workers, and under that you can select learn about the voting machine. And we have completed acceptance testing of the machine. First, it was done by the New York State Board of Elections, and then we did a more comprehensive acceptance testing. And the acceptance testing is to ensure that all the machines are functioning as they're supposed to. We're going to be doing a media rollout of these machines at the Finger Lakes Independence Center on March 11th. They will be used for the first time in the March 19th village elections, followed very closely after that by the April 2nd presidential primary. We are busy right now developing a training program on the new machines for our poll workers, as we expect to train 175 to 200 poll workers before the presidential primary. And outside of the machine area, there's a couple of new laws that we're administering right away. It's called the Early Voting by Mail law, which allows voters to apply and get a ballot. It's similar to the absentee ballot, except the voter does not have to provide a reason why they want the ballot. And then the next year, beginning in 2025, we're going to be phasing in the implementation of the even year election bill, which will take 5 years. By 2030, it'll be fully transitioned over to even all town and village, well, not town, not village, all town and county legislature offices will transition over to, by 2030, to even running their elections in even years. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Mike?
Steve, as you've noted, it's a presidential year, a lot of elections going on this year with primaries and things. Normally, you need to staff up a little more these years. How are you doing? Are you going to have to add people? You plan for that? What's going on?
Well, we were budgeted during the budget process last year. For this year, we did add I believe, one half-time full-time equivalent for a voting machine technician. We are going to work hard to try to stay within the budget. There is an awful lot of work, though, particularly with the acquisition of the new machines and creating a training program that, even though I think these machines are going to be much easier for the poll workers to work with, I think they, there's differences where you got to train them on it.
So in your office, you think you're going to be okay with staff?
Right now, yes.
I know you mentioned to us before that with the even year coming, it was going to be a lot more work, and I'm just trying to understand if there's going to need to be more people in your office for the budgeting for next year, for example.
For 2025, probably not, but 2026, I would say yes.
Thank you.
Greg?
Yeah, I had just a quick procedural question, because in the next election cycle, the legislators' terms will be reduced to 3 years to align with the cycle. Is there any action or anything that we need to do at the legislature level that would signal that we're doing that because, a change in the state's rules, so that we're not in conflict with our bylaws or charter? Yeah. Just to memorialize that in some way or acknowledge that?
I mean, from our standpoint, I don't think but I believe the charter does have language about the length of terms for county legislature.
It might be a good idea to do that. That would also get some more publicity out to the public. I don't think we have to, because the state supersedes our charter.
Sure. Yeah, I just didn't want to be in conflict with it. I didn't know procedurally if something had to be done.
Let's think about that.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for that update.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay. So next we have more resolutions. Resolution approval of appointment to the Tompkins County Council of Governments, ID 12182, and that is on page 14. We need someone to move that. Greg moves. Amanda seconds. Any questions, discussion? Amanda?
Yeah, I would just state for the public, in case anyone's listening, that we are appointing our new chair, Dan Klein, and Shauna Black as the alternate, just to put that out there.
Right. Thank you. Okay, we can vote.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Susan Currie,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Greg Mezey.
Yes.
Next is a report/discussion and update to sign-in form for public speaking at legislative meetings, ID 12177, and that is on page 15. I don't think we're not voting on this. This is just a discussion item, but I don't know. Amanda?
Yeah, I think this came up, from some of our recent legislature meetings where we had a lot of people doing public comment, and there was a lot of background noise and clapping and, people disagreeing with what the speaker was saying. And, I think it's kind of worth a discussion about, we can't necessarily control people's reactions. I think at our last meeting, Dan did a good job of asking people to, stay quiet and please don't cheer or make, derisive comments. But this was something that we, folks thought maybe we could do to ask at least the speakers, if you're signing up to speak, that you need to control your behavior when other people are speaking. So I guess it's mostly just a discussion topic if people feel like they want to try to make this change, or if it's worth it on the blue cards, or not, or or if it really just is up to the chair at any given meeting to say, folks in the audience, please, be respectful. So it's just open for discussion of if anybody has thoughts.
Rich?
Yes, I have thoughts. I think it's okay to add this. I would note that all of the other directions are for when somebody's speaking. This is when they're not speaking. And if somebody comes to chambers and is not planning to speak, so it has limited applicability. But I think it sends the right message that we want courtesy to all the speakers. And it's not supposed to be an arena with cheering. It's supposed to be discussion and listening. So I'm okay with it.
Mike?
Similar to what Rich just said, if we put it where it's here, I think the language is good, but if we put it here, we're talking to the speakers only. I've noticed sitting here that a lot of the people that are applauding or hissing or whatever may not be speakers. And I wonder if maybe we could have it on the blue card, but above that, and maybe it's above the actual rules, and just say something about this is a general requirement of privilege of the floor that the chair could be reading each meeting.
Greg?
Yeah, I echo Rich's comments. I don't think it hurts to put it on there. I think, it's just if we have a lot of people speaking, they usually fill the audience. So it's just a great way to get them to acknowledge that. But I do think it may be beneficial to, maybe have a nice poster or something created that's, decorum of the chambers, or expectation of participation in a meeting, something that maybe aligns with our values about, respect, something like that, tie it back to a broader picture so that the chair could reference, something that's easily visible and identifiable to everybody who's participating in the meeting in the chambers.
When Dan read this statement at the last meeting, I was watching the group, and I think hearing it had a visible impact on the behavior of the group. People were much more respectful of speakers, so I actually think all of these things are good, and I think it's good for the chair to read it. I know it adds a little bit, but it did have a good impact. Amanda, you had another comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say what you just said. I think that having the chair say it out loud, people had to sort of acknowledge it.
Yeah.
So maybe, we could certainly put it on the blue card, but maybe if we had the same or similar language that the chair just reads at the beginning as well and says, here's our expectations. And or something on the wall, a poster, rules or whatever. I think having both would be ideal. I also feel like in the time that I've been on the legislature, there's definitely been other times besides the most recent times when people have been clapping and, making other noises but I don't feel like it happens a lot. It's not like a very common thing, but it is disruptive, and it tends to extend things if people are clapping and then the next person doesn't start speaking. So anyway, I'm just rambling.
Yeah.
But maybe we could then ask Brittany, or if we could have that resolution back next month to add this to the cards, and then I don't know that we need a resolution, but we could, come up with the same or similar language, and that we want the chair to read this at the beginning of public comment time. I don't know. I'm just trying to summarize it.
No, we definitely can do that, Amanda. Something else that I was thinking of while you all were speaking, we could potentially work with Dominic to have some nice fancy poster made to display here in Chambers. Also, we have information on our website that says, you know, if you're not feeling well, stay home. If you want to submit a comment in writing, here's the link. We could also potentially add, I was thinking, that verbiage to our website as well. We seem to get a lot of traffic that way and a lot of public comment that way. So that's just something else I was thinking of.
Greg?
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to belabor this because I think this is a good progress. Maybe if we're going to look at a resolution or something, rules for speaking, I don't know if we want to maybe adjust that language in some way, expectations or something that sounds a little less authoritative, but, you know, more of a cooperative, you know, shared, something. I don't know. I don't, just a thought if we wanted to take rules away from that, and maybe, you know, the expectations we have of members or participants or whatever. At the end of the day, any participation and privilege of the floor is at the discretion of the chair, right? That can be stopped at any point. So, I don't know, just a thought.
Mike, did you have a comment?
Yes, I sort of like rules because I think that's what we expect them to adhere to. And they are here as our guests. If we weaken that, Greg, it seems to me that then they might take advantage of it.
Yeah, I guess I guess I have, like when I have people over to my house, I have expectations of my guests, but I don't have rules for them. I understand what you're saying, but I just think there's a way that we approach the interaction with the community. And I think we already are in a position of authority in that conversation. So looking at, I don't know, maybe rules is okay. Maybe this is a non-issue. I just raised the question, if we're looking holistically at this, do we just have expectations of participation in the meeting or something like that that is less power dynamic between us and the community?
Did you have a comment? Rich?
Yes. Yeah, I understand the sentiment in trying to be more collegial with our guests because they are guests and we want them to come and talk to us. And I would say above 95% are fine. They're okay. It's really just a very small percentage of people that are going to disobey. And for them, I think we have to call them rules, particularly because the last one is, hey, if you don't follow, we're going to kick you out.
Yeah.
It's hard to say that as an expectation. That's, and so I think we keep it. I think we keep it rules. It's more how we receive the people and deal with them. I think it's okay to use the word rules. My view.
I understand the rationale behind maybe wanting to soften it, but in this case, I think, you know, because there's so much unexpected that can happen, rules sends a clear guideline to people, and they understand that. Yeah. Amanda?
Yeah, I like rules. I mean, we have rules for ourselves, you know, so I think we can have rules for our guests, and then I don't think any of the rules are out of line or too much, or, you know, I don't think we're asking too much of people. So I think I like rules.
I mean, I think it's a good thought, you know, to look at that, but I think rules helps everyone. Stay, yeah. You have another comment? Nope. Okay. Okay, ready to move along to resolution, delegation of authority to authorize certain tax refunds and credits of $2,500. ID 12186, page 16. Need someone to move that? Mike? Need a second? Amanda? Any discussion? Questions? Okay.
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Susan Currie,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Greg Mezey.
Yes.
Then I see on here, resolution adoption of list of designated officers and employees required to file an annual financial disclosure form, ID 12184, page 16. Do we vote? We vote on this? No? Yep, okay. Greg moves. Need a second? Amanda? Mike, you have a question or discussion?
Just wondered, Brittany or Katrina, are there changes from last year?
The only changes we had were some title updates. Weights and measures changed to under Highway Department instead of its own department, and Workforce Development, there was a change in title there.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay,
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Susan Currie,
yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes.
Rich John,
Yes.
Greg Mezey.
Yes.
Okay, next is resolution approval of the 2024 succession of members of the county legislature to serve in the absence of the chair and vice chair. And that one is on page, what's that? 19. Okay. You need someone to move that? Amanda? Someone to second? Rich? Any discussion? Would you like to, Katrina, please, go ahead.
I would just like to add that I was going to go in and make a change to the resolution. 2023 is listed there, and it should be 2024.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry about that.
Okay. We have that correction. And then Mike, I think you had a question or discussion?
Publicly, we know that Mike Sigler is running for office this year and works and has this job. I wonder if it would make sense to switch the order, put Rich second and Mike third. I would move that amendment.
Let's see, I think Rich.
I'll second that.
Okay, all right, great. And then, Rich, did you have your hand up?
It's okay. I'll
Okay.
pass.
All right. So,
I would point out that this has never been implemented since I've been on the legislature.
so we vote on the amendment. Okay,
No, the use of this, it's always, there's never been the absence of the chair and vice chair that required someone else to act, that I can recall.
so the amendment, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I think the amendment is friendly, so, unless, yeah. So I don't think we have to vote on the amendment.
Okay, so we're just going to vote for the resolution, but Rich has his hand up.
Yeah, as Mike said, moving from number 5 to number 4, I'll promise to watch my diet and exercise, with tremendous responsibility, but it has never happened. I doubt it would happen, but I think I'm going to vote no just because it looks like it's self-serving. Anyway.
Just take it off the consent
That's my rationale
agenda.
for voting no.
So are we ready to vote? Okay,
Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Susan Currie,
yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes?
Rich John,
No.
Greg Mezey.
Yes.
Reports. Amanda, any report?
Yeah, so let's see, just FYI, Holly Mosier let me know she's not going to be here, so those of you who are there know she's not there. She had a case this morning. I wanted to just note that we, with our change this year with leadership and committees and all of that, we're bringing the history folks, history center and historian back into this committee. So I feel like maybe the historian was here, but we didn't have the history center here. So I'm hoping to get, Ben and Laura, the historian, in sometime in the next couple months, so we'll get some updates from them. Just FYI, letting you all know. And then I think I'm not usually really big on the like, let's set goals for ourselves for the year. We have a lot of things that come to us, and we don't necessarily need to make more work for ourselves. But I think that next month we can take a few minutes to talk about that. If there are specific things that you all want to have on our agenda this year, or there's, you know, specific topics. I already have a couple of topics that folks have given me that we want to make sure we get in for the year. But anyway, so bring any ideas you have next month, and we will talk about that. And then I just want to say that the teal color, you can't really see it because I have a blue thing, but it's lovely. And I am going to suggest that everyone wears teal at our, and Susan has blue. I wore it kind of blue, but it's not exactly blue. It's like teal, turquoise. So thank you to the clerks. Thank you, Mike Lane, for the suggestion of a change of color. And I'm really hoping that we win the Committee Spirit Award again this year. Thank you.
Okay.
Nothing but the best for the best committee. Crown jewel.
Rich, you had your hand up before. You still?
Yeah, I just had a point of information. When I was trying to get into the meeting, there was some discussion about advisory board appointments. And I think you did some but not others, or did you do them all?
We held off, and I think we were going to have an executive session after the committee reports to talk about that.
Oh, okay.
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 Okay. Next report, County Administrator. Lisa?
Thank you. In regard to departmental goals for 2024 for departments that report to GO, as we've been doing for the past several years, county administration is compiling those goals from departments. They came into us yesterday was the due date. So, and since GO meets at the very beginning of the month, we didn't have enough turnaround time to bring them in February. We'll be bringing them to this committee in March for your review in the committee packet, and can ask the departments at that time any questions related to those goals. So that'll be coming in March. I was also aware of the lingering conversation that came up at the last committee, the last GO committee while I was on vacation regarding assessment, the discussion about the consideration of triennial assessment, which I understand the committee is not interested in. And then the question that was posed to Jay about the staffing level that it would take to continue on with the annual assessment as it is. So in the intervening time, Jay and I had conversation about this, and we had conversation leading up to that discussion also. And so out of that, his comments to me were that they could continue to make it work for the current year to consider this in the 2025 budget process. It does, per our procedures and fiscal policy, and for a lot of reasons, we don't typically consider budget requests for additional staffing outside of the budget process unless it's, there are some dire circumstances. We had some conversation about why this request didn't come through in the 2024 budget process, and I think it's largely because in the budget process, as part of the county administration's directives to department heads, when we were looking to meet the 2% target increase, we were looking to do this without increases in staffing. And so that did not come through in the budget request. Subsequently, going through the budget process, additional monies were found, and we were able to meet that target and provide additional services. But this is somewhat of illustrates a point of what happens in the budget process to some of our departments in terms of following the rules or not stating the budget requests up front like that, the staffing requests, and also the state of some of our internal serving departments that staffing may be, more of an issue just to maintain standard operating procedures. Jade's described the situation and assessment to me as though they can handle the many more reassessments that they're needing to do with the many changes in the real estate market, but it's as though they are treading water and they're not able to do some of the special studies and other components of assessment that they had been able to do in the past when there were fewer changes to the roles. So it's something that has, raised my awareness of, communicating with departments that these needs need to be fully expressed in over target request for legislators to consider, and we can bring that forward in the 2025 budget process.
Greg, you had a question?
Yeah, didn't we add a budget? Wasn't there an OTR for
assessment?
For assessment? Increasing a staff person?
There was an over target in 2021 that did increase staffing then, and that was also to address some of the reductions due to COVID. We did it to take place in the 2021 calendar year, and there was also a target increase in 2022.
Okay, because I'm looking right now back at the budget book, and it looks like in 2024 budget, the real property appraisers went up from 5 to 6 from 23 to 24. Maybe I'm getting budget years confused, but I thought there was a conversation at some point about adding a staff position or something to assist in that department that was discussed during the budget process.
Not in my recollection for 2024.
Maybe it was 23. So I might be blurring it together. It's all a blur.
Any other questions? Oh, Amanda.
Yeah, just thank you, Lisa, for explaining more. I guess my question is for the committee. I mean, we've had a couple of lengthy discussions about assessment and with Jay and assessment. I know when it came up at the full legislature, there were some legislators who felt like maybe that is the direction we want to go. I guess my question is to the committee, do you want to keep having these discussions or this discussion about, the possibility of moving to triennial assessment and try to get more legislators to come to join that conversation in the future at a future meeting or not? Do we feel like we have discussed it enough? And yes, this committee, the last year's committee agreed that we, did not want to go that direction, so it didn't go to the full legislature. But I guess I'm just asking if folks want to continue having conversations in committee.
Mike?
And if I remember right, at the last legislature meeting during your report, you mentioned to the group that we would be talking about this again, and they invited them to come. We don't seem to have anybody, so I'm not interested in pursuing any more discussion about triennial in the committee. That's my opinion. But I am interested in fully understanding Jay's budget this year, so that when it comes budget time, we are able to make sure that his requests, if there are any for staffing, are understood by our committee, and we can advocate for them.
I'm looking at next week's legislative agenda. There is tax rates, tax levies, tax base. Jay Franklin, is that to do with this? Is it an update, or is it?
Jay is planning to provide kind of an educational overview of
Okay.
those topics.
Rich?
Yeah, I was going to say, I generally agree with Mike. I think that we don't need to discuss this here because there was pretty good consensus reached. And if Jay could make sure if an OTR is coming through, or Jay and Lisa, that it becomes known to the full legislature early in the process, because that'll be a pretty big decision in the budget cycle.
Yeah.
But I think that's where the argument will happen, if there's going to be one.
I would agree with that.
It's a big new expense, but
Yeah.
I think on this committee, there didn't seem to be a lot of disagreement.
Greg, did you have?
Yeah, I don't mean to upset the apple cart, but I would definitely have disagreed and voted no on that process if I was part of that committee in the past. It'd have to be a really compelling case to grow significantly that department, in my mind. So I would really want to understand that better. And I don't think it's a unanimous sentiment of the committee this year. Of previous committees, yes, totally understand the conversations that happened. I would personally like to explore assessment and how we assess and understand the 100%, the different percentages, those type of things. I know some of that conversation has already happened. But I think as we now know and have it relate to the additional staffing requirements and needs of that department, and, not being able to do certain functions or not, I do think it's worth having a conversation. And I hope, maybe we'll learn more from Jay's presentation on Tuesday at the full legislature. But I just want to sort of voice my dissent to this committee feels a certain way this year, because that is not my sentiment.
Lisa, I just want to make sure I understand. It sounded to me like you and Jay have figured out this year and how to manage. Okay. That was one of my main concerns, is to make sure that they would be able to manage. And then I think what Rich was saying is that it would be not necessarily this committee, but the whole legislature after the presentation. I think that will be important next week. Anything else? Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, Amanda. I didn't look at the
That's
screen.
okay. Yeah, no, thanks, everybody. I think, maybe we don't have to have quite so many long discussions about it at every meeting, but it seems like we need to keep discussing it to some extent, and having updates from Jay and how is the department doing, and to what Greg is saying, it is very complex and we're all still trying to understand it. So, having him continue to come in and give us, lessons on how it works and have the chance for us to ask questions, I think is probably a good idea. So we'll definitely have it on our agenda, maybe not every month, but we'll definitely keep discussing. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is a report from our Chief Equity and Diversity Officer, Charlene. Good morning.
Morning.
So this will be my first time updating you all, as you know, and I'm going to update you on the last 4 months that I've been here, so it'll be kind of information overload, but as we continue throughout the year, I'll probably have less and less to give you. So I wanted to start off by today is National Freedom Day. It's February 1st, and because of Abraham Lincoln signing the resolution to outlaw slavery, Harry Truman in 1948 was able to make today in a proclamation National Freedom Day. And it really is a blessing, right, to have freedoms that we humbly and thankfully enjoy, in Harry Truman's words, as U.S. citizens. So in equity and inclusion, that is like the crux of what we talk about. It's like, what is it to provide solutions for individuals and collectives that meet them where they are? So as I came into this position, some of the things that I started to work on was an environmental scan, which I have a listening tour. So I'm going to each department, meeting with department heads, deputies, and really talking about what they're doing within their offices in relation to DEI. And more importantly, I'm looking to see how they want to be supported by this position in that way. So I wanted to share some of the high-level findings and trends that I'm noticing through departments. Some of them are workforce diversity enhancement. People are looking to diversify our workforce in many ways. Culture and morale, increasing that. What does that look like to have a more collaborative space? Kind of disrupting silos in a way. Intentional efforts towards access to DEI-related trainings. And lastly, promotional infrastructures, right? We all want to be rewarded for the work that we do. And, you know, as a government entity, it seems like we do that very well, but people are looking to perhaps see it in a more comprehensive way that they can see their future versus having to, what's the word I'm looking for? Advocate for their future. So those were some of the findings that I had qualitatively. Quantitatively, we have about 66% of our workforce have engaged in a DEI training in the last year. As a new practitioner, as a practitioner new to this space, I think that that's a really great number. We have 40% of our workforce that hasn't been exposed to a DEI training this year, so we can focus on what that would look like moving forward. And it gives us a nice gauge of how we can build institutional capacity in relation to DEI. That takes me into the ways in which we plan on building institutional capacity. And one is through our Equity Exchange newsletter that was launched in October of 2023. It is a monthly newsletter that provides recommended reads, articles, cultural celebration months, and a way for our staff and the legislature to engage in topics related to DEI across the nation and even sometimes internationally and globally. In tandem with that, we also reconvened our core equity team, JEDI, which is Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. That is comprised of constituents across the organization at varying levels. So we have department heads, deputies, some frontline staff that get together, and they are in the process of developing their goals for 2024, but most importantly, updating their mission and their vision to align with our current values, our current diversity statement, and our current mission and goals at the organizational level. So there'll be more coming from that. There will also be 2 on-demand trainings this year, one in the spring for leadership, including the legislature, which will be invited to it. We are partnering with Ithaca College. It will happen on April 9th. The save the date will go out as well. And it will be in the campus center for accessibility and any other needs that our staff may have or our legislature may have. The next one, we are partnering with the Diversity Consortium of Tompkins County. That will happen in the fall on October 17th. And I believe right now they have also chosen the Emerson Suites at Ithaca College as well. So the first one in the spring will be targeted to our leadership and deputies. The one in the fall will be for the entire workforce. So we're looking to provide those on-demand trainings this year as well as a way to build institutional capacity. And then I think that is all I have for you.
Mike, you have a question?
Charlene, first, thanks for the history lesson. I appreciate that.
I thought you would, Mike.
Second, I don't know if I'm looking for a response, but I'm very proud of our county because we have pretty deep roots in the DEI issues going back as far as I can remember, being on the legislature. And it's great for the organization, and it's great for the people of Tompkins County. It bothers me a lot to read in the news about states and other municipalities wanting to ban discussions in school about DEI or use of DEI in recruiting or other kinds of things. And I think it's so important that we understand our history here and appreciate what we're doing, because there are forces out there that are strange in my way of looking at it, not in keeping with this.
I agree. Thank you so much. I think that, I give so much respect to our county administrator and her team for being innovative, and we think about this as enhancing practices versus a polarized space, right? So how are we better to our community? Tompkins County has been forward thinking in that for a very long time, so we just want to maintain that and ensure that we're at the cusp of innovation moving forward.
I enjoyed the equity exchange very much. I just got one today or yesterday, I think. Is that something that I can share with my district? Because I like to send out all of the announcements. Or is that more of an internal document?
It is internal, but
Okay.
the link is open to anyone who
Okay.
would
Sign up, okay. Because you had, reading recommendations and training recommendations I thought they might be interested in.
Yes, Dom helped us get that in a space where we can share it externally and internally. So, thank you, Dom, for your help on that as well.
It's very nice. Thank you for putting that together. Greg?
You had 2 dates. Are those both dates something you're seeking legislator participation in? Could you just rattle those dates off again?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You will get a save the date. We'll send you an email. We'll target you specifically, like, hey, Greg, can you please make it? But right now, April 9th, from 12 to 5, and October 17th, I think it's from 8 to 4. If that changes, the October 17th time changes, please forgive me. I will, update you on that. It's still in the process of planning.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's see, our county attorney is not here today. Director of Finance, Lori?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I have a few updates. First, hot off the press, while we were sitting here in the meeting, I had Drew back in the office manning the phone. Our band sale was happening this morning, and at 11 o'clock that closed, and we closed at a rate of 3.415%, which is a fantastic rate. Last year it was 3.47%. So very pleased with that outcome, and just happened at 11:11 this morning. So just to follow up on that, we've been very busy the past couple of weeks working on the official statement that goes out for that band sale. And I would encourage all of you to read that. It's a fantastic pulling together of all kinds of data that is pertinent to the county and what we do. And it's kind of like all things financial in one place. And so I would encourage you to read that. We'd spent a lot of time working on it, and very proud of that document. The other thing is our update on the interim foreclosure process. As of yesterday, we were at 30 properties, 13 residential, 17 vacant and commercial. And the staff has been extremely busy with year-end, continuing with our year-end closing, as well as this week that we're currently in, we are working on the IDA and task audits. So we've been working with the auditors all week on that, so.
I think Rich has a question.
Yeah, congratulations on the band sale. And where would we go to get that document, the band description?
The official statement, I'm not sure if it's on the website, I will check, but I will send it to you.
Thank you. I'd like to read it.
That was my question too. So Mike, did you have a question? No, okay, I thought I saw your hand. Anyone else? Thank you, Lori. Next is our communications director, Dominic. You guys have been busy.
Very busy. And yeah, I have a few updates, but I will start with the technology upgrades and changes in chambers. You'll see that we have been able to implement this new system for this meeting. This is the first meeting where this is running the way that you see it, and we're not using the projectors and screens. In fact, the technology that allows the scaling of all the images for the projectors has actually been moved into some of this. We were actually able to achieve a little cost savings reusing some of the technology. Essentially what we're able to do now, in addition to the ways that you're viewing these screens, which we've talked about a lot, and I'm happy to answer questions if that comes up, one of the core functions of the change is the ability to manage executive sessions, in my opinion, just more seamlessly and more professionally. So before, we were using that screen at the end of the table, which is now gone and will be returned to the emergency response department. We're keeping it here for now in case we need a backup at worst case scenario. And we're sort of running a little microphone over to a speaker and having a roundabout way, a workaround to a system that is now more integrated. So for executive sessions, you'll be able to view everything on these screens, and that'll all be controlled from within the room. And the audio will all connect through these microphones through the system rather than out one of the speakers into a microphone. So regardless of all of that, there's a couple of things that are sort of ongoing that are still to be addressed. The cords in the center there, those will be sort of dressed up so you can't see the cords. It'll look a little bit cleaner. We're tidying up a few other aspects of it as well, including, and you saw it probably in the presentation to get today, some of that text on that presentation was maybe just a little too small for the human eye to see. There's a couple of different solutions we plan to do with presentations. One is setting a baseline of 18-point font for people who are presenting in here. They probably should have been doing something like that before. I've been working toward that, but that's going to be something we communicate with presenters and county staff with our templates for our presentations. I'm always trying to improve presentation design. This is a good opportunity to make that happen. There's also the camera on that end of the room. I believe it's camera 5 that is now inside of that office, which is fine. We don't need all of them every time, 100% of the time, but we will be moving it out to the corner of the office. So if there is a little lag in Rob finding someone on camera, it's because we have only 4 to switch from instead of 5 preset. So that's a one thing that we'll be working on. Let's see here. We're running an audio check. There's been a couple of questions about little hints of feedback that some people are hearing in the room, maybe particular actually from the mic that I'm sitting with. So we have the company coming back to do an audio check just to double check everything. And I don't have all of the details at the moment, but Mike raised a question beforehand about the reruns on cable, legislature meetings stream on cable. With the updates that we did, we switched a lot of the inputs to what ends up going out to the public, and one of those inputs that switched impacts our ability to rerun the meetings on cable at recurring. So it's been a few months since that rerun is occurring. We have the tickets in to the vendor, and we can elevate those tickets or talk to other staff on how we might best appropriate or do that. I will say it's probably mainly a capacity issue. There's a lot of moving pieces, and the company's been working on a lot of different things for us. So I know that's a lot. Last thing I want to say is just a thank you to Rob and to the clerks and to this committee for sort of working through all of these technical pieces of this system. I think we have a great system in place that's certainly more sustainable, more serviceable, and I'm happy to answer questions about it before any other updates. All right.
Thank you.
That's
you
good
very
news.
much.
Yeah, and I hope this continues to work for you. If you have feedback, don't hesitate to let me know. I'm happy to try to adjust things as needed or hear how it's working for people. Ultimately, it's got to work for everybody around this table and the public who comes to visit.
Thing to get used to looking in new places.
Yeah, I noticed that before, and certainly I think because of the size of that screen, people will kind of default to over there sometimes. But I'm hoping that these serve their purposes well.
And the font, I think, that was an issue for me today, so thank you. I'm glad to know that's going to be addressed.
You got it. The last two brief things that I have, one is that I'm keeping this committee updated on the progress with revamping the organization's website, and just continuing to let folks know that it is receiving pretty much an entire overhaul this year, and that's going to be an ongoing year-long process. There are going to be a lot of design and layout decisions that we'll be making throughout that process. And I have a group of employees from across the organization, all different types of positions, including a few department heads, and that group's helping to make some of the decisions around the site as we go along with the vendor. So I'm really excited about that, and I'll continue to bring that forward throughout the year to you all, and that's a great opportunity. And then the last thing I have is recently the legislature passed the new data publication policy for the county, and we've been working on implementing that policy. As of most recently, we've offered all of our staff who work on data analysis and data publication new software tools to analyze and publish their data on behalf of the county. And so just another update that work is moving forward and going very well.
Thank you. No discussion? Okay. Okay, next is reports from committee members. Any committee members have any reports or updates? Mike?
Only, I wanted to ask Amanda, I didn't understand what you said about what we're going to do about goals. Did you say we're going to put that over to next meeting? Or?
Yeah, let's talk about it at next meeting. And so in the meantime, if you think about things that you want to have on the agenda this year, bring them at the next meeting.
Okay, well, because I've got one thing I'd like to put down.
Okay. Now I think next is our planned executive. Oh, I'm sorry, Rich.
It's okay. I had sent an email out to everybody just trying to get a sense on any appetite for looking at our rules, particularly on resolutions about national and international issues.
Right.
Greg, thank you for your response, but I'd like to know if there's any appetite for perhaps considering something. That, as you all know, we've received in the neighborhood of 700 emails. We spent hours of our meetings on public comment and discussion of issues in the Middle East, and I think at this point, the only way forward is through. We have to see it to conclusion. I read the draft resolution that some of our members put together. I think it's pretty good language. I still don't think it'll satisfy everybody. I think we're going to have a lot of contention about it anyway. And I'm at a point, I just don't know that we add a lot of value by doing this. There's things we do as legislators, and I often disagree with a lot of you guys, but one thing I am absolutely sure of is, as compared to the general public, we're really pretty well informed. We do our homework, and we have access to information that we do tap into that we can make pretty informed decisions. Absolutely none of that is true for us in the Middle East. We are mere mortals. We have no expertise greater than anybody in the general public. And I don't know that our opinions carry or should carry any additional weight. This is a federal issue. People should be writing to their federal representatives and trying to get them to act. And that's the reason why I'm saying we shouldn't do this, that the amount of time we've spent on this, I believe, has impacted our ability to do the work that we signed on for the residents of Tompkins County to do. And some people would say, well, in fact, I read a letter to the editor in the Ithaca Times saying, isn't it great they're doing this so that they don't do anything else because government is bad? We oversee nearly $250 million of budget. We do have things we really do need to pay attention to, and that's where we should be focused. So what I was proposing is that if we're going to comment on policies or actions or legislation of other governmental entities, it should have a direct and substantial impact on Tompkins County. And I know direct and substantial is, subject to interpretation, but you got to have some measure, so that's what I would propose. And I believe for any statement from the legislature to make any sense at all, it should have some weight behind it. An 8-6 vote doesn't really say very much. So I was suggesting 2/3. And we use 2/3 for other types of votes. I think it should apply here. I'd love to hear if anybody besides Greg has thoughts on this. And Greg, if you have more thoughts, please.
Mike?
Rich, I 100% understand where you're coming from, but I think I really more agree with Greg's response. And we've heard the consternation for years about these issues, but we still do them because they're not that frequent, and they take the pulse of the community, gives them a microphone to use. I agree. I think about the last meeting we had where every speaker who spoke was on one side of the Middle East issue, and yet we had 700 emails mostly on the other side of the issue. And those things happen, but I think there is a general desire as a spokesman for a very highly educated county to be able to let people come in. And we don't say they have to come and speak on something that's on the agenda like some counties do that allow privilege of the floor. We say they can come and talk about any topic. And I personally have always thought that was a pretty nice thing that we did. And I guess I would be concerned about changing where we debate this from the actual resolution to debating whether there were 2/3 votes to let the resolution come forward. So thanks, and thanks for your thoughts, and I totally understand what you're saying, but I don't think I could agree with it.
Amanda?
If I could just respond.
Sure.
I'm not saying people can't come in and tell us things. We should listen on any subject, I guess, but it's our action. Resolutions is all I'm talking about.
I'm not sure I have very clear thoughts, but I definitely tend to agree with you, Rich. I'm just, we do these resolutions and sometimes they make us feel good and sometimes they alienate people. I guess one question I would have would be for the clerks I guess procedurally, I don't really know, can we just say these kinds of resolutions have to have 2/3 vote, or I don't really understand, if we can just declare that. I don't know if you have a thought.
I believe you're going to have to amend the rules of order, because that's where it dictates what votes are needed.
Right, okay. So in terms of that part of it, that might not be possible. But I get your point, and and as I said, I tend to agree. I don't know. I guess I don't have more clear thoughts. My brain is fuzzy.
Greg would like to say something. I just wanted to add a couple of things. So as a first-year new legislator, it's been incredibly educational to have these public comments. And it is clear to me that our resolution might not have any impact on a state or even a national level, but it does mean something to the people who have come here. And that has been fascinating. I really struggled with this entire thing. I am the liaison to the Human Rights Commission. They worked really hard on this, and they were trying very hard to be inclusive, and would like to support them. I struggle with this because I don't think that anyone cares what we, on the national level, the government or anyone, but as I said, I think it means something to our community. And by trying to vote, by voting on this and having a good discussion, it shows them that the time they took to come here and speak to us was valued. So I think it's really important to move ahead with this, no matter the outcome of it. And for me, it wasn't so much about a ceasefire, it was about acknowledging the pain and suffering of our community and mourning all of the death and the violence and hoping that that would stop. So I do think it's really important to acknowledge what our community is telling us. Greg, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, Rich, I definitely appreciate you raising the question. You know, as somebody who spent time and part of my career looking at how to create efficiencies in organizations, this definitely can be a process that is a large drain on energy and resource and things like that. I think if you look at the productivity of the legislature, though, this didn't slow us down, right? With over 300 resolutions passed in 2023, we approved a budget, right? We have not stopped the business of Tompkins County. Maybe we've had a fewer later nights. It might be tiring on staff at times to work a day and then also sit through a long meeting. Recognize that and appreciate them sort of bearing through that with us. But I don't think by taking up these issues at times, and not regularly, but at times when called for by members of our community, it's slowing down the business of Tompkins County. I also think that we're really at the front door of government and accessibility for our community. And it's really the first interaction where they can see and touch in a meaningful way and interact with elected officials that then can hopefully amplify their voice. Because I can tell you if one of us calls Senator Schumer's office or a regular constituent calls Senator Schumer's office, the answer and response may be different. So we do carry some weight behind our voice and amplifying the voice of our community. So I think by limiting that, we're doing more of a disservice to our community than we are gaining in benefit to the operation and the efficiency of county government. Lastly, I think if, I have actions requiring 2/3 vote on my desk, underneath my little desk pad here, and it's very few items. If we're going to go into this 2/3 vote conversation, gosh, I'd love to see our budget passed by 2/3 vote, right? I'd love to see other things. And so I think that this is a real slippery slope that if right now there are things that maybe were required by law to have 2/3 vote and things that are pretty significant to the operation of the county that also require 2/3 vote. I think by opening up that discussion, it's, again, and to my point that I made in my email that you referenced, we're going to have a lot of debate over what 2/3, what actions are going to require 2/3 or not. And I think that could also be detrimental to the operation of the county because I could see that not being used for the benefit or the good of the county, but to limit the voice of maybe a dissenting portion of county government if 2/3 were required to do something. So I don't support the idea. I hear it in sentiment, but unfortunately there are complex issues, and we may not know what is a direct and substantial impact to the members of our community, but I think we have an obligation to listen, absorb, decide if we want to respond or not, but I don't think it, though, impacts our ability to govern and govern effectively and efficiently in Tompkins County by doing these type of things. But I appreciate you raising the question.
It's a worthy discussion topic, but we could learn something from it. Amanda?
Yeah, I just want to say to any folks who are listening who have come and talked about this issue, I know this is a very emotional issue. People have very strong feelings on both sides. It's very difficult. But I would like to hear all of those people come and talk to us about issues that we actually can, handle, like our budget. Like, we had 0 people come and talk to us about the budget. And I mean, I'm guilty of it myself. Before I had this job, I never was outspoken. I never went to talk to my government officials. But, you know, all these people now, maybe they'd never been to the chambers before. Now they have. So come talk to us about, you know, bills. Come talk to us about assessment. Come talk to us about, you know, how we're running our government, because those are things that we can actually change and make good, you know, choices about. So if anybody out there is listening, I would love to hear from them on actual topics that we can affect. Thanks.
Thank you. I agree with you 100%, Amanda. I think there are also many issues. There's great need in our county. You know, the unhoused. You know, there's so many. There's such a great need: hunger, food, childcare. I would very much like to see our community come and talk to us about those needs. Anyone else? Thank you. So now do we go into executive session? Oh, Mike, thank you.
When I raised the issue, what I said was I really wanted to understand from the liaisons, so the former and the new one, whether they support going ahead with these appointments of the library trustees at the present time. And if not, I thought we should have an executive session. I'm not advocating for an executive session unless the group wants to do that.
Okay, thank you. So, Amanda?
I guess.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I'm still not sure exactly what to say. I will just be frank and say that we still haven't heard from the board about the bylaws, their bylaws that we are supposed to approve. Melissa Seidel did the president, once we appoint her, did email me, you know, several weeks ago and said they wanted to resolve the issue of the bylaws and that they were going to look at them and then send them to us, and then, you know, so have a little bit more back and forth. Maybe Rich has something to say about that. But I was a little bit reluctant to go ahead and approve their new members before we had a chance to discuss the bylaws. Yeah, so I don't know if Rich, if you've heard anything about their bylaws.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess I don't have any objection to approving these board members. I think there's some things we do need to resolve. Perhaps those should be appropriate subjects for executive session at this point. But I would get these people on the board so they have, you know, the ability to make quorum and to act. I attended one meeting so far, and there were, you know, these 3 people showed up, but they couldn't vote. And I think it hampered the discussion at the board level a bit. So I would favor going forward on this issue. But I agree completely. There's some other things we need to just make sure are in alignment between the legislature and the library board. But I think that can be accomplished.
So the proposal is to go ahead and vote on, well, all of these advisory board appointments, right? And then
Yeah, I did have one other point, Susan. I don't know
Okay.
if this got covered because I was scrambling to try to get into the meeting at that point, but there was one of the appointments, I think, to the Historical Commission. It has a note saying, "See attached," and I didn't see attached.
Attachment, yeah.
So I'm happy to vote for that today, but when it comes before the full legislature, we probably should make sure that other page is included.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I just mention that I believe is Ruth Groff?
Yeah.
And she's been coming to meetings, even though she hasn't been a member of the Historical Commission. She's been doing a great job.
I do believe it was her resume that was attached, which is why I did not attach it.
Okay.
It
looks like she's well recommended. The people that were giving her support for her nomination, I think certainly know local history. So I'm pretty comfortable with the application, but I don't know. Do we want to see the resume?
It always throws me off when it says "see attached" and there's no attachment. Yeah,
I'm good without it because,
yeah, I am too.
personally, she just got elected.
I will, I'll defer to you guys then. I'm comfortable.
Anyone else okay with that? Okay.
So we would need a new motion to vote on these.
Okay, Greg moves. Need it, Amanda seconds. Okay.
Discussion? Are we good to vote?
Ready to vote? Okay.
Okay. Amanda Champion,
Yes.
Susan Currie,
Yes.
Mike Lane,
Yes?
Rich John,
Yes.
Greg Mezey.
Yes.
So the full slate, everyone on here is approved. Okay. Yes, Mike?
I just want to say thanks for having the discussion about whether we should go ahead or not. Thank you.
And Rich, are you suggesting that we have an executive session to discuss the other items that you raised?
I'm happy to, or we could wait until the next meeting. I think I'll certainly have more information by
Okay.
then.
I think that sounds like a good idea. Everyone okay waiting till okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so do I need a motion to adjourn, or I can just adjourn? So I think we're all done, right? Thank you for your patience as I did this, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan.
Feel better, both of you.